Okay, this episode I want to talk about older bikes. So we've all seen older bikes and they have crack indications and things like, particularly around the bottom bracket junction, head tubes, where there's inserts, those sorts of things. So what I'm going to do, I'll run through a couple of little examples on things to look out for and give you an indication and a bit of an understanding on some of these factors. So I've got this older Trek Madone 6.5. There it is there. Woo. And look, this would be it'd be probably 10 to 12 years old, something like that, I'd say. It doesn't have a date. We could look up the serial number with Trek. Trek are really good with that. Is there any dates inside? No, there's a bunch of scribble down in the head tube, but one of the things this came into now these older Treks, often they had there were paint cracks sort of at the junctions, and maybe you can see that. Let's bring it right in. Other side's a bit better. Let's see if you can see that. Okay, you see that crack right in the middle of the screen there? So that was, obviously the person was concerned about that crack indication, and when we did a scan on it, we found that there was actually an adhesive void in that. So and so over time that interface has broken down. Now I've done those before. I'll show you. It's almost the same. And this is a same type of bike. It's a different model. It's a 5 point something. I've cut the frame in half so I can only read half of it. It's 5 point something. Same construction though, same basic shape. Same sort of age, and I think I've posted this one before on the Instagram, but maybe you can see the void. Is that going to focus in? Come on, focus in. There we go. So the void right there in that adhesive void in that bond interface. So what I suspect is, hang that back on the wall. What I suspect with this one is it's exactly the same thing. So, and that's what the scan revealed, that there's definitely, it's definitely not bonded. So if I cut it open, I'll probably find a similar thing to what the other one was. What else is there with this one? So there's also some corrosion. So they've used a steel insert here, and it's rusted. You can see that. Also, these inserts on this side. There we go. You can see that they've used a stainless steel rivet there, but there's been water ingression into the laminate and under the clear coat, and you can see the sort of bubbling. I'll just get a little spotlight on that and just see if you can see it a little bit better. Let's see if that makes it. Oh, yeah, that's probably a bit better. I know. So the that sort of little bubbling under the clear coat sort of is a sign of moisture ingression. So that there's several areas. It's under the tube, the down tube at the down tube cable guides as well, and that's right near that bonded junction. So, typically these adhesives, they don't like moisture so much, so they can break down with moisture and heat. So, for a bonded interface, hot, wet is usually the worst environmental condition. So you want to keep things dry and sealed and that sort of stuff. So with having these inserts corroded is definitely like a long-term detriment to the life of the bike. This particular one, we'll scrap it because it's because of that bond failure in the joint. But other things, typically, and you'll see these on all the older bikes. You often get cracks around the bottom bracket junction, and often they're because of wrinkles. Now, we've gone through wrinkles in the past, but where there's a fold in the fibre, and therefore it can't take the load properly. And so over time, that will fatigue. The resin, it's basically the resin holding it together, and the resin's not very strong. It's about 1% the strength of the fibre, and then over time that'll break down. So, that's the sort of thing that present themselves. So, other little voids, planar voids in the laminate, porosity, etc. Over time, that will present themselves. So, if you've got an older bike, have a look through and check for some of these signs of longer term fatigue. The other thing I want to show you just quickly is a fork. And now this is an older Reynolds Uzo fork, and back in the day, like these were, the pick of the forks. These were a great fork. We didn't see many failures, if any, with these. These were good. Like, I don't recall seeing much with these at all. With this one came in, and the person he did have an incident with the bike, and when we looked at, we found the bond to the steerer to the crown. So it's a carbon crown, and then it's got an aluminium crown insert there. Now that bond has failed, and that's very difficult to pick. And obviously, if that lets go while you're riding, you're going to be in serious problem. It even has a warning label there. It's failure to follow installation instructions may result in rider injury. Having a steerer come out of the crown will definitely result in a rider injury. So now, this is an example of just these older components. You need to inspect them on a regular basis for signs of damage. And that goes not only for carbon frames, this goes for metal frames as well. I've seen a lot of aluminium frames fail over fatigue, and steel frames crack and things like that. Titanium frames crack. Everything will fail. So basically, the lesson here is the older components, you need to probably check them a bit more frequently to keep using them. So it's like the old cars too. It's you don't see that many old cars on the road now. It's people replace their cars. And the other thing with in terms of life, if we're using a comparison, is with aircraft. Like the top airlines, they buy new aircraft and they'll run them for a period of time, and then they'll sell them on to a lesser, like a more budget airline, and they'll just work their way down the chain until they're flying in Africa somewhere, and then they crash. They fall out of the sky from a failure in the aircraft. So that's the sort of things. Like, keep in mind, older stuff is likely to wear out, fatigue, etc. Does have a limited life, especially the really lightweight stuff, because it's really been optimized for lightweight, not for life. And so the less material you have, the less margin of safety. And so if you have a little flaw in the part, it's going to have more serious consequences if there's less material. So that's the lesson for today. If you've got an older bike, have a look at it. If there's something you're not sure about, get it checked out by somebody who knows what they're doing. And try and stay safe out there. The last thing we want to see is people get hurt riding their bikes. Bike riding is enjoyable. It's It's meant to be fun. It's not meant to hurt you, you know. So try and stay safe out there. If you've got any doubts, you know, give us some comments, ask us some questions, and we'll try and get you sorted out. All right, that's it for this one, and we'll see you again soon. Okay, bye.